Well, a question. If God is the actor and the doer, why are you still auditioning? For whom are you reading the lines of your life? To which committee in consciousness are you submitting your heart to be graded? If the Father within doeth the works, what exactly are you trying to prove to people? Listen quietly. People-pleasing is perpetual self-review. It is a life lived from, how am I doing? How am I appearing? How am I measuring? Instead of from presence. It is a rehearsal room that never opens its curtains because the mind is forever straightening its tie in a mirror of opinion. And so peace is postponed to the next nod, the next smile, the next favorable report. But who is it that needs this verdict? Where is this one that trembles before the tribunal of faces? We will come to that, but hear this first. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. When I say I, how are you going to localize that? In the posture of humility, I find that I am not in the physical. No, I am absent from the body and present with the Lord. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. And if that is true, then what is the relevance of auditioning? Would the sun apply for permission to shine? Would the ocean request applause before it moves in tides? Not a bit. It is the nature of their being to express. You see, the habit of pleasing is a redirecting of attention from source to shadow. It sets up other minds as little thrones to be appeased, and then it kneels before them. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. That is not a stern prohibition. It is a lifeline. When you enthrone any opinion as your oxygen, you will choke on it. When you return to one, breath returns. In this realization, the need to audition dissolves, not by effort, but by truth. So let us puncture the habit with holy negations. Not to impress, not to manage, not to secure love, not to bargain, not to decorate the mask, not to win safety. The life that is lived of God is not a campaign. It is the effortless outflow of the one who is. Be still and feel it. I and the Father are one. Therefore, I am not here to compete, persuade, or perform. I am here to bear witness. And how shall we begin? Not with another strategy, not with better lines, with a turning, an inner consent that ends the audition and opens the sanctuary. Father, live thou my life. Do thou the seeing, the speaking, the loving. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In that simple prayer, the stage goes dark to the senses and bright within. Presence steps forward, and the critic retires. Then, without striving, the role is fulfilled, because the actor himself has taken the part. Now let us name the idol plainly, because idols lose power when they are unmasked. The crowd in the theater of opinion, other gods in modern dress. The boss who must be appeased, another god. The family system with its silent contracts, another god. The internet that feeds you numbers that look like worth, another god. They are not evil. They are not even personal villains. They are empty thrones upon which we have set our hope of breath. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Not a threat, not a scold. A law of oxygen. Breathe from source or pant after shadows. Approval-seeking is worship. See it not as a quirk, but as a liturgy performed at the wrong altar. We rise in the morning to check the temple of faces. We offer the incense of agreeable words, We sacrifice our inner yes and our inner no. We walk the day genuflecting to the imagined tribunal called they. In that, we have taken the mind of others as the source of supply, safety, and self. That is servitude. When God is recognized as the only actor, the only doer, the only beer, then to labor for applause is to put the cart before the horse, the shadow before the light. It cannot satisfy. It cannot. It is a well without water. And the cost? You know it in your fibers. Exhaustion that no vacation cures because you are dragging a stage behind you. Resentment, quiet, sour, because the parts you play do not fit your soul. A vague fear of rejection, the body braced as if the next email will be a verdict. And the subtle dishonesty of performing goodness, a yes that is not clean, a kindness rehearsed to secure an outcome, a smile with a hook. Do not call it harmless. You cannot break a law of inner integrity and not pay in peace. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Violate a traffic law and the fine arrives. Violate the law of the beam and the structure falls. Violate 2 times 2 is 4, and the problem will not balance. It is not personal punishment. It is principle operating. Don't tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. Now answer me softly. What are you afraid will happen if you disappoint? Will God cease to be God? Will your breath stop? Who is the judge? What face? What name? Where is that judge located? In this room? In the ceiling? In your chest? Show me the bench upon which this magistrate sits. No. No, you cannot locate it. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body, nor any they. The tribunal you fear is a moving picture projected upon the screen of memory and desire. It is not law. It is suggestion. It is not source. It is echo. Bring the lens back to one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, I do not need to purchase belonging with counterfeit coin. When I make another mind my source, I bind myself to its weather. When I refrain from that idolatry, I stand in the climate of grace. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let this be your safeguard. Withdraw your incense from the altar of approval. Do not barter your integrity for a nod. Be still and let the actor act. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. In that obedience to law, peace returns, not as a trophy, but as the nature of being revealing itself, where the false God has been dismissed. Let us turn the lamp inward and find the claimant. When you say, I, where is that I? Point to it. Is it behind the eyes where pictures flicker? Is it in the chest where the drum beats fast when a message dings? Is it in the throat where words tangle when the room grows quiet? Now look again. That pressure behind the eyes, sensation. That throb in the chest, sensation. That dryness in the mouth, sensation. No, no, that is not I. That is the instrument reporting. That is the dashboard light, not the driver. Then perhaps the I is in a story. The resume, the childhood, the faces that clapped, the faces that frowned. The report cards, the numbers on a screen. Memory files, edited and replayed. Image layered upon image until a portrait emerges and you defend it as yourself. No, no. That is memory. That is image. That is a museum of impressions, useful perhaps for reference, useless for identity. The one who craves approval lives there, behind the glass, forever endangered because he is made of paint that can be smeared and words that can be unsaid. Protecting him is labor without Sabbath, for opinions shift like weather, and a paper house trembles in every breeze. Trace the craving to its root, and you will find a constructed me, stitched from borrowed adjectives. I am kind if you say so. I am valuable if the chart rises. I am safe if they are pleased. Hear the bargain? Hear the altar? That me is born of suggestion and fed on echoes. It is the orphan of comparison, forever stretching its hand for a coin that will not spend in the realm of spirit. And you have tried to feed it, and it does not fill. Not a bit. Be still. Let the body rest as body. Let the story sit as story. I am not in the physical. I am not inside a rib cage or behind a forehead. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. No surgeon has ever yet found any me inside of a body, nor will you find it in a scrapbook of yesterdays. The real I is not a character to be perfected, not a product to be launched. The real I is spiritual identity, being itself announcing I am. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. In that oneness, there is nothing to add by applause, and nothing to subtract by rejection. Completeness is not a rating. Security is not a vote. Try this, quietly, without strain. Withdraw a moment from the committee of faces. Refuse for this breath to manage their weather. Notice the shoulder that braces, sensation. Let it be. Notice the thought that rehearses, image. Let it pass. Sink back past the monitors into the fact of I. Not the I that says, make them like me, but the I that simply is before any audience gathers. Do you feel even a thread, even a whisper of looseness where fear was tight? That is the beginning of the disentanglement. When the click of inner union comes, even faintly, the stage lights dim and another steps forward, the one. And in that presence, the need to be approved is not conquered, it is disused. It has no office to perform. From this ground, living becomes witness rather than performance. I do not defend an image. I bear witness to an identity. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace before they speak. Thy grace after they forget. Thy grace, whether doors open or shut. This is not bravado, it is law. The self that needed approval was a mental manufacture. The self that is needs nothing, gives all, and rests. Now, because the false claimant has been seen, we can look at the law that ends his performance. Hear it as law, not as sentiment. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Love thy neighbor as thyself. This is not a mood to be tried on a good day. This is cosmic order. As surely as 2 times 2 is 4, as surely as a beam must be true to bear its load, so must consciousness be true to one and to love, if harmony is to appear. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. It is not something you use. It is something you obey. People-pleasing breaks both commandments in one gesture. It multiplies gods, the boss god, the family god, the audience god, the stranger God, and it kneels to each in turn to breathe. It says, I will love if. I will smile for safety. I will agree for supply. I will be kind as a trade. That is not love, that is barter. That is not neighborliness, that is negotiation. In so doing, you have taken the shadow for the source and turned love into currency. No, no, love is not a coin. Love is the nature of God revealed as the nature of your being, and it does not haggle. What then is the penalty for this violation? Do not picture a deity offended and poised to strike. Principle does not take offense. Principle operates. You violate 2 times 2 is 4, and the sum refuses to balance. You misjudge the load on a beam, and the structure yields. You run the red light, and the intersection answers. As you sow, so shall ye reap. So it is with many gods and traded love. The harvest is confusion, fatigue, and the quiet ache of dishonesty. The loss is automatic, the loss of inner harmony, the dimming of that simple rightness that tells you, yes, this is true. It is not punishment. It is proof that you cannot bend law without being bent by it. Return then to one. Withdraw your breath from a dozen altars and stand in the sanctuary of I and the Father are one. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, I need not buy belonging. In oneness, love is no longer a means to an end. It is the end being itself. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let that sentence do the clearing work. When grace is sufficiency, what is there to trade? When grace is sufficiency, performance loses its purpose. Relationship ceases to be a marketplace. It becomes a field where being meets being without demand. Test it quietly in the next human exchange. Do not try to be liked. Do not try to fix. Hold inwardly to one God. Ask, not with lips but in the heart. What is love here that asks nothing and withholds nothing? Then wait. You will feel the click or the hint of it. The pressure to appease loosens. The need to embroider speech fades. Words come simple, or no words come, and either is right. This is not appeasement. This is overflow. This is not managing. This is witnessing. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. And where the law of one and of love is honored, performance ends, because there is nothing to transact. Only grace fulfilling itself as sufficiency, as right relation, as peace. Instrumentality is not indolence, and it is not retreat. It is the cessation of tampering. It is the sacred refusal to insert a personal will between God and God's own action. Do not confuse surrender with collapse. Do not mistake quiet for apathy. The leaf that yields to the current is not lazy. It is in perfect relation to the river. In this work, instrumentality is simply this. I withdraw my management. I drop my schemes. I release the rehearsal of lines, and I stand as availability. Not absent, but transparent. Not passive, but unresisting to the one that ever seeks to fulfill itself as good. 2 modes stand before you at every hour. One is personal will. It calculates, angles, edits, and presses. It chooses words for effect, gestures for leverage, timing for advantage. It wants results, and it wants applause to prove that its methods are wise. The other is receptivity, naked, desireless, attentive. It asks, What is moving now that is not of my making? It listens until the stirring becomes audible, until the click comes, and then it moves as obedience. Between these two, choose law over effort. God is the actor and the doer and the beer. I am merely the instrument. Say it within until the strain loosens from your shoulders. Say it again until the anxious planner stands down. Consider a violin. It does not write sonatas, and it does not lobby for encores. It is kept in tune. It is clean, unwarped, ready. When the bow draws, music appears. So with a lens, it does not emit light, it transmits. When it is clear, the light is not distorted. In instrumentality, you are not the composer of outcomes, nor the salesman of your virtue. You are the tuned thing through which God's own nature passes into form. And because you are an instrument, the appetite for compliments dies of disuse. An instrument that begs for praise is out of tune already. Keep yourself in tune. How? By refusing to function for personal ends, and by consenting to be used for God's. This is a very practical inner shift. Watch a conversation begin to swell with proving and pleasing. Notice the old question rise, how am I doing? Cut it off, gently, and replace it. Father, live thou my life through this conversation. In the meeting, when the room grows thick with agendas, Father, live thou my life through this decision. At the boundary where you must say no without anger and yes without fear, Father, live thou my life through this boundary. Then listen. Do not rush to decorate the silence. Wait for the tone of rightness, the word that asks nothing, the gesture without hook. This is not avoidance. This is active obedience. It may send you to speak firmly, or to be still. It may give you a sentence, or it may close your mouth. Either way, you are not managing. You are yielding to law. Why does this end the approval addiction? Because the source of action is shifted. When the ego performs, it must feed on reaction to stay alive. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow from need, and you harvest more need. But when action is God's action, sufficiency is built in. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. The outcome belongs to principle, not personality. You are absent from the body and present with the Lord. You are not a bundle of nerves on a stage. You are a transparency for the One. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, right relation is included in obedience. In this, the audition ends, because there is no role to sell. There is only God fulfilling God as the word you speak, the silence you keep, the work you do, the step you delay, the boundary you honor. Begin to trust this. The more you refrain from pushing, the more you discover that movement arrives of itself and carries you in the rhythm of inevitability. That rhythm is love. That rhythm is law. Keep the instrument clean. Keep it tuned with the password of sufficiency. Father, live thou my life. And when the hint of the click appears, let it lead you on into the quiet where the manager self has no appointment and the actor alone takes the stage. Now let us make this very plain, very simple, and free of any strain. Take a chair, nothing mystical, nothing ornate. It will be a chair low enough that your feet find the floor without reaching, and your back is supported without arching. Sit so that the spine is easy but not stiff. Let the hands rest loosely. on the lap or on the thighs, but never propped, never clutching. Keep the arms relaxed, no pinching at the elbows, no shoulders lifted as if to pass an examination. Close the eyes, gently. There is no occult reason for any of this, only one of physical comfort. A comfortable body intrudes less, and the mind can grow quiet without a fight. In this position with the eyes closed, become so still that you are virtually unaware of having a body. Not because the body is evil, not because you must flee it. No, no. Because while you are counting the beats in the chest and watching the twitch at the lid, you are preoccupied with instrument and not with music. Let sensation be sensation. Do not argue with it. Let it recede to the background like the hum of a distant engine. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. I am not in the physical. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. As this fact is allowed, social fear has nothing to grip. It reaches for handles, and there are none. Now wait. Desireless. This is not a time to bargain with God for an outcome, not to get approval, not to fix someone, not to manufacture confidence to face a room. Refuse every project the manager self brings to the threshold. Lay them down. If a thought says, "Plan your sentence," answer with silence. If another says, "Rehearse your smile," answer with stillness. Offer only this simple inward prayer, barely a whisper in the heart. Father, thou in me, live, speak, act. Say it once, and then cease the saying. Let it echo of itself. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. You will notice thoughts continuing, pictures, snatches of yesterday, the tug to check for results. Do not decorate them. Do not chase them. Let them float as leaves on water, while you rest as the depth beneath. In this willing not to know, something begins to change. It is not a trance. It is not a thrill. It is a click. The click. Sometimes a faint release, sometimes a clear, soft assurance, by which you know that the inner union has been acknowledged. Nothing dramatic may happen outwardly, but within, the measuring stops. An ease spreads through the chest without cause. The breath finds its own length. A wordless yes stands where anxiety stood. Guidance is no longer your calculation. It is presence announcing its own way. Sometimes you are sent a sentence whole. Sometimes you are given quiet and told to wait. Either is law. Either is love. Be careful here. Do not use this silence to send thoughts to another or to manage circumstances by mental force. I hope you will never try to do it. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Turn this waiting into manipulation, and it will turn on the user like a double-edged sword. This is not management. This is surrender of management. Practice often and briefly, rather than seldom and heroically. 3 minutes upon waking, 2 minutes before the call, a breath at the door, a pause before you answer the message. Slip behind the curtain of sensation. Consent again to the prayer. Father, thou in me, live, speak, act. When the click comes, move with it. When it does not come, be still and do not invent it. In my oneness with God, I find completeness for this moment. I find sufficiency for this task. I find right relation for this meeting. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. In this silence, the manager self fades, and divine action becomes tangible, not as argument, but as guidance and peace that walk out the door with you. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let us tell the truth without embroidery. Trying to be liked is manipulation. It is arranging the voice, the eyes, the timing of a reply, the posture of concern, to secure a specific reaction in another. It is stage managing the hearts of men and women as if they were props to be set for our safety. Do you feel how that tightens the chest? That is the sign. Control. Not love, not witness. Control. And because it violates the nature of spirit, it cannot be sustained without cost. Do not tamper with a cosmic law. It is a double-edged sword. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Use the things of God to obtain a private outcome, and the edge will turn upon the user. It is as inevitable as 2 times 2 refusing to be 5. As certain as a crooked beam bringing down its own roof. As plain as a red light met with speed producing collision. You push to be liked, and anxiety is your harvest. A constant scan of faces, a tremor in speech, the quiet corrosion of self-respect. You barter authenticity, and the soul sends you the bill. Restlessness, resentment, vague shame. Principle is not punishing you. Principle is revealing itself as unbendable harmony. I hope you will never try to do it. Never project thought to sway a mind. Never pray in order to manage someone's opinion. Never send mental pictures to achieve consent. I have studiously avoided mental and physical contacts for this reason. I never give human advice. We are not engineers of outcomes. There can be no selfish purpose in a cosmic law. Seek first God, not results. Presence, not popularity. The moment you reach across the boundary of another's freedom with invisible fingers, you have left the sanctuary of oneness and entered a marketplace of sorcery. That door will not open to peace. Non-interference is not passivity. It is obedience. You may say no, cleanly, without a hook. You may speak firmly, without anger. You may be quiet, even when pressed, without sulking. You may walk away when the click withholds permission to proceed. But do it as an instrument, not a manager. Father, live thou my life. Through this no, through this firmness, through this silence. Then take your hands off the result. Let principle carry its own weight. The harvest of non-interference is simplicity. No aftertaste. No self-justifying rehearsals. No dread of review. Now the purification. When love is free of need, it heals. Not a coin for approval, not a strategy for safety, but the nature of God revealing itself where you stand. In my oneness with God, I find completeness. In my oneness with God, I find security. In my oneness with God, I find right relation with every being and idea. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. As manipulation stops, peace returns on its own feet. The audience disappears because there is no play to sell. There is only presence, unbargained for, enough. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Before they like or dislike, before they answer or ignore. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. And in that sufficiency, control falls away and love remains. Now we make it simple enough to live by. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Take it as a password, not a charm. Whisper it, not to get a result, but to step back into reality. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Again. Again, until the syllables stop being words and become atmosphere. And then, be still. The click will come, sometimes faint as a feather. When it does, sufficiency is no longer a sentence, it is felt substance. You are not a performer scanning faces, you are absent from the body, present with the Lord. You are an instrument at rest, ready. A difficult conversation appears. You feel the pulse quicken, the shoulder lift, the mind start to rehearse. That is your bell. Do not rush past it. Pause. Let the breath fall into its own length. Return to one God. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Wait for the loosening, even a thread of it. Now speak from sufficiency, not for approval. Honesty comes clean, without sting, because there is no hook in it. Kindness is not a trade, because nothing is being purchased. You can say yes, and it is a yes. You can say no, and it is a no. And there is no aftertaste, because God is the actor, and you are merely the instrument. A family member is disappointed. The ancient reflex to appease rises. Fix it, smooth it, pay with yourself. Stop. Password. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. You are not abandoning love. You are abandoning barter. The click may send you to apologize, or it may steady you in a boundary. Either way, you are not pleading for agreement. You are witnessing to law. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow from sufficiency, and peace is your harvest. You are about to post online. The finger hovers, asking for a little praise. See it. Smile inwardly at the old idol. Password. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Perhaps the post is released without embroidery. Perhaps it is not posted at all. No argument, no strain. Right action is simple when there is nothing to sell. Criticism arrives, sharp, unfair, public. The body tenses. Do not answer the sting with management. Breathe. One God. Password. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Listen. What is love here that asks nothing? Sometimes it is a quiet thank you and correction where fact requires. Sometimes it is silence because no transaction is needed. Being misunderstood? Do not chase with explanations for the sake of image. Hold to sufficiency until the click gives you one true sentence, or none. Principle will carry its own weight. Make for yourself a small litany and walk in it as in a garden. In my oneness with God, I find completeness. In my oneness with God, I find security. In my oneness with God, I find peace. In my oneness with God, I find right action. Let these be steps you can always find in the dark. They will not make you passive, they will make you exact. They end performance, because supply is not coming from faces. It is coming from grace. And where grace is sufficiency, life ceases to be an audition and becomes prayer in action. Quiet, inevitable, free. When love is no longer a strategy for safety, you stop extracting and you begin beholding. You look upon a face and are not scanning it for your next breath. You are not reaching into it as into a purse. No. No. You are witnessing life, not merchandise. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, the neighbor before you is not a source to be tapped, not a mirror to perfect your image, but the same life revealing itself in another visibility. In this recognition, competition melts. There is nothing to take from you because supply is not in your hand, and nothing to defend in me because identity is not in my costume. The marketplace closes. The sanctuary opens. Here's the paradox. You become more helpful when you cease trying to be approved as helpful. The helpfulness that seeks praise is a disguised hunger. It performs to be fed, and so it cannot be exact. It offers words that are too many, gestures that are too sweet, agreements that are too quick, because the price is approval. But the love that needs nothing is precise. It speaks one clear sentence, or it mends a hinge in silence. It leaves a room rather than sweeten a lie. It arrives on time and departs on time, without embroidery. Why? Because it is not a strategy. It is an overflow. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. When the instrument does not clamor for applause, the tone is clean, and usefulness appears of itself. Let this become a simple ethic of relationship. Speak truth without self-justification, because there is no image to defend. Serve without being used, because there is no bargain to keep alive. Listen without losing yourself, because in listening you are not vacant. You are absent from the body and present with the Lord. If pressure mounts to prove you are the good one, decline the part. Father, live thou my life. Through this conversation, through this meeting, through this boundary. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. From that sufficiency, a yes is unhooked, a no is unhooked, and the other's freedom is preserved. You do not mortgage your integrity to purchase a smile. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow truth without self, and you reap peace without aftertaste. Watch what happens in community when even a few stand in this law. The fear of scarcity has no chorus to amplify it. The scramble quiets. When I want nothing you have, and you want nothing that I have, there is no possibility of a war. Like two lamps drawing from one current, we do not steal light. We share source. Tasks distribute themselves by rightness rather than by flattery, and cooperation becomes natural because no one is angling for the spotlight. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, your good is never my loss, and my good does not require your diminishment. It is cosmic order, not sentiment. Feel the relief of this. No more contest to win. No more case to prove. No more halo to polish. The costume of the good one falls to the floor, and the simple neighbor remains, unmanaged, unthreatening, available. In my oneness with God, I find completeness, and so I do not enter your life to complete me. In my oneness with God, I find security, and so I do not bind you with agreements to keep me safe. In my oneness with God, I find right action, and so I do not study your face to decide my next step. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let that be the air between us. Then love, no longer a currency, becomes the atmosphere in which we walk together. Simple, cooperative, and free. Father, live thou my life. Live thou thy love as neighborliness through these hands, these words, this quiet. And let every shadow of competition dissolve in the light of sufficiency. We have walked from performance to presence, from the fatigue of many judges to the rest of one God, from the strain of self-doing to the ease of instrumentality. We have seen the false claimant unmasked, the I that begs for approval, and we have returned to the law that ends the trade. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Love thy neighbor as thyself. We have learned to enter the silence where the manager self retires, to refuse the sorcery of trying to be liked, to stand in sufficiency so that love is not a strategy, but an overflow. My conscious oneness with God constitutes my oneness with all spiritual being and idea. Therefore, there is nothing to sell, nothing to purchase, nothing to defend. Only God fulfilling God as the simple rightness of each moment. Now we close in the only way worthy of law, in prayer that is surrender, not request. Father, live thou my life. Take this day's roles, parent, colleague, friend, healer, student, stranger, and live them as thine own visibility. Take reputation and empty it of fear. Take failure and success and render them harmless. I release ambition as a god. I release approval as a god. I release control as a god. I am not in the physical. I am absent from the body and present with the Lord. I and the Father are one. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. Let the click answer from within, even now, and let the audition end. Carry this not as a vow to impress heaven, but as quiet practice. Return to silence daily. Sit easily, relinquish projects, and wait without bargaining. Seek not a sign. Watch for the click. When it comes, obey without embroidery. When it delays, be still and refuse to invent it. Let one God be the government of your speaking and your withholding, your yes and your no, your going and your staying. Do not reach for faces to feed you. Do not angle for praise to prove you true. Principle carries its own weight. As you sow, so shall ye reap. Sow from sufficiency, and peace is the harvest that needs no witness. Let this be our benediction that continues as breath. Father, live thou my life, today, through these hands, these feet, this voice, this quiet. I am merely the instrument. God is the actor. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. In my oneness with God, I find completeness. In my oneness with God, I find security. In my oneness with God, I find right action. In my oneness with God, I find peace. The audition is over. Life is prayer in action. And so it is, and I thank thee.